What's going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Remette Knives Meteor. Now, of course, the Meteor is in via the Lefty passaround group, and it is part of a little Remette package, including the Meteor and the Aurora. If you guys are interested in this knife, I did my full review on it yesterday, so definitely head on over and check that one out if you think that this is, up your alley. Really enjoyed that one. But today we're going to be talking about the Meteor. And if I'm being honest, I was definitely a little bit more interested in checking out the Aurora between these two. But honestly, yet again, Remette's fit and finish, their build quality, their quality control, it didn't surprise me. I expected this knife to be all of those things, do it well, and it did. The only thing that's kind of keeping me back from this knife is I'm just not the biggest or biggest fan of the design. The biggest fan of the design. The aesthetic just doesn't speak to me too much. I don't really like the blade shape, but as a fit and finish and a functioning pocket knife, I think it's great. Another thing I'm not a huge fan of is the front flipper, which we'll touch on that. It's just based on how much of an angle you have to get here. But overall, I think the Meteor is a very good knife. And I think to me, it's just the biggest thing to get past is if you were a fan of the knife, if you were a fan of how the knife looks. I will be leaving a link down below in the description to Remette's website. I could not find this on, my usual White Mountain knives, but Remette currently has all of 7 variations are all currently in stock in some sort of, configuration, which is nice. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump right into materials. Starting off, you guys can see that this is rocking some, it's like Toxic Storm fat carbon on both sides. They are inlays. You have a nice full backspacer there, as well as a lanyard post. You have dual thumb studs, and they are the same. Let me get the Aurora. They are the same thumb studs as the Aurora, which is nice. I stated how I kind of liked how oversized they felt. So you have the dual thumb studs, you have a front flipper, and this knife also has a top frame lock, which is really cool. So it operates just like a button lock or a top liner lock, but it's a frame lock. And then it also has, of course, the frame lock down here that you can function and operate, manipulate, whatever you want to call it, both ways, which is cool. You have kind of a spear point, kind of a chody looking blade. Has a swedge built in up here. Remette there on the blade as well. And this is an M390. So premium materials, I'm just, not a big fan of how that blade looks. As far as internal milling is being talked about, there is no internal milling, but obviously you have a large portion of that titanium being milled off there for the inlays. You have a lock bar interface, lock bar insert there. And yeah, so milled titanium clip that is non-reversible, I guess, is the last thing I wanted to touch on. Some specs for you guys. So we have an overall length of 7.48 inches. We have a blade length of 2.99. We have a close length or a handle length of 4.41. And the knife comes in weighing 4.13 ounces. And honestly, it feels a little bit like 4.13 ounces when this is, I believe it was like 3.4. The knife, this knife does not feel, how am I saying this? This knife, I'll put this down. This knife does not feel about, more than half an ounce heavier than that one, but maybe an ounce isn't, it's so hard to figure out. They just feel relatively around the same price, same weight. But yeah, I just felt the need to point that out. You guys know, tend to go off on my random side quests here on the channel. Give you guys a size comparison between two very popular knives. Obviously my Para 3 you guys have seen so much of, and then my TRM Neutron 2 that you've also seen so much of. So bigger than both of those knives, but really, in the same range of sizes as those. It's not much bigger at all. Just a smidge, but it definitely is in the same range as both of those knives. So I just like to show you those two in case you are considering getting one and you have one of those two at home. You can kind of give a quick, it's good to put eyes on how it looks, which is nice. So, and as far as variations go, there are 7 different ones, all between They all have titanium and N390, and then there's just different levels and different variations of the carbon fiber. Some you have I can't think of the word for it. It's like a white, not a shred carbon fiber. I'm having a brain fart right now, but there's 7 different variations of it, all ranging between, you know, red, white, and blue. They have a new one that is like kind of like a python color. They do have one with a DLC blade, but they all are relatively around the same price point, which is nice. But again, it'll be linked down below in the description if you guys are interested in checking it out. I'm not going to go through and read everything because honestly, it doesn't even have, I don't even have a true name for half of what the inlays are called, and I don't want to make a fool of myself by giving you guys the wrong one. But that's why I'm leaving a link down below to check it out. So, talking about action, obviously we've got the dual thumb studs right here. Thumb flick is nice. Reverse flick is nice. I really like how the detent feels on this one. Nice and snappy. Reverse flick just works so well. Thumb flick also works really well. Really like those thumb studs. They're big and kind of aggressive, and they're just super easy to just grab a hold of. The front flipper, I touched on earlier how I wasn't a huge fan. Oh, I just nicked myself. I wasn't a huge fan of how I just don't love when front flippers have like so much space. I really like when they're nice and tight, if that makes any sense. I mean, it definitely works fine. It's just a little bit more like less intuitive to grasp a hold of, like how to manipulate it, if that makes any sense. But again, it works fine. You know, don't have any issues once you get used to it. But I just prefer when, like, you know, obviously the pivot's back here and the front flipper is all the way out here. I just prefer when they're really nice and tight, and you like, because if you get too high, you can kind of roll off of them. You just have to get a little bit more leverage with this one. But you know, as a front flipper, it works okay. Just definitely not my favorite. But of course, you have multiple ways of locking the knife here. So you are disengaging it, I should say. So you have the top frame lock, which is nice, and then of course you have the typical frame lock down below, more of a bolster lock than a frame lock, but they are basically the same thing. So this definitely is a fidget-friendly monster. You know, you can definitely switch it up, and it can keep you entertained for a while. But sometimes also with the front flipper that I wanted to talk about is you might not get like the best detent on it, the best like snap on it, because sometimes when you get up here, like it starts to go, and then you almost just like roll it over. It doesn't give you like that really good like oomph. I mean, you can get it at times, but it's like few and far between, because again, leave a comment down below what your guys' thoughts are on, you know, do you kind of understand the way my brain is thinking here with how the front flipper looks and sort of operates. I wish I had one laying here next to me that is more of what I'm trying to talk about, but at the end of the day, it works fine. It just takes a little bit more getting used to, which I guess can be with any knife. But yeah, next up we're going to talk about ergos. Very, very comfortable knife. I can get all 4 fingers on here very, very easily, very comfortably. As far as not loving the design from an aesthetic standpoint, it's a really comfortable knife to hold. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a curvature going on here, really, you know, neutral handle shape. A little bit of jimping up top here, just really, really comfortable. You can utilize this choke up point, which is nice. The blade stock is really thin because of that swedge built on top here, so you do have no jimping, and it is a little bit kind of like if you push down hard on it, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, just because of how thin it is, so you do have to kind of take that into perspective. But again, that's just kind of a funky, I guess it's usable for EDC tasks, but I just don't really like the way, you know, that blade really looks. But the pocket clip is a milled clip, so it's nice and flat. You know, a little bit pointy up here, but that's, you know, not causing a hot spot at all on my hands, which is nice. Non-reversible, so you're not gonna be having any issues with, you know, any filler plate or anything over there. It's just straight carbon fiber. Titanium is slightly contoured and chamfered in all the right areas, which is really nice. And as far as ergos go, like, it's nothing like to write home about, but it's a good, comfortable knife. And I feel like that's kind of where I've been at with a lot of models recently, is like, it's nothing that is like blowing your mind, but it's a very good, a very comfortable knife. and I just feel like I should be leaving it at that instead of trying to just like, I don't know, like just draw out what I'm trying to say about it when, like, or just trying to beat a dead horse when like I've already established that it's a comfortable knife, if that makes any sense to you guys. So as far as Hercos are going, for the third or fourth time, really comfortable, you know, very solid, no complaints at all there. Now with action with carryability, grabbing my friend's Hank here from Gone Deck EDC. Get that right up here. So as far as milled clips go, very similar to the Aurora. I really like how they are both, you know, tucked up into the corner of this triangular butt of the end of the knife, instead of like being clipped down here and leaving room there. I really like how they did that. But it carries nice and deep in the pocket. From an aesthetic standpoint, I do like the way this clip looks, which is cool. But it sits out of the pocket, no flipper tab, no jimping, nothing like that to possibly catch your hands on. It's you know, it's a relatively kind of short and stocky knife, so it carries pretty well. You know, it's not like the thinnest knife in the world, but I feel like it carries kind of thin, just the way the knife shape is, which is nice. But it sits down in the pocket real well. And again, similar to, you know, carryability, or excuse me, similar to, I can't even talk today, guys, I apologize. Just one of those videos. Similar to ergonomics, you know, carryability is nothing crazy, nothing you want to really, you know, write home about, but it's good. It's just simple, it's good, and you know, at the end of the day, that's really sometimes all you're looking for, or at least for me, all you're looking for in you know, a good EDC knife. But that leads me to my final category, which is price point and what I recommend this knife. So price point on these, like I mentioned earlier, they all range except for the DLC version, which is $290. All the other carbon fiber and, you know, fat carbon versions range from $238 to $242. So there's like a $4 difference between them. So we'll say $240. I don't have any issues with that. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bang up value, but for what you're getting, you know, multiple ways of deploying the knife, technically one lock, but in the same vein, technically two. It's a fidget monster, great materials, M390, titanium, carbon fiber. I don't have any issues with that, with, you know, it being, you know, the price that it's at. Again, I'm not going to go out of my way to say that it is just some amazing value, but for the price you're paying, you know, Remette makes a very good knife. They know what they're doing with their product. Their fit and finish is good. Everything that you would want, you know, out of a knife is prevalent here with the Meteor. And I think the biggest thing is, and that's honestly the same thing for so many knife reviews, I can recommend it, but I just think it comes down to design. If you're a fan of design, then I think you're going to like the knife. You know, if you're a fan of the design and the way that this is going to, you know, be a fidget monster, then I think that this is right up your alley. Just for me personally, not my most favorite design out of Remette, and that's okay. You know, designs aren't for everybody, and that's just kind of how I am about it. But at the end of the day, I still really appreciate what Remette does as far as fit and finish, building quality, all those things. They still do really well. And if it just comes down to, again, me not liking the design, take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is, and you know, not everybody's not going to like every design out there. So, but leave a comment down below, guys. What's your thoughts on the Remette Meteor? You know, have you guys had one in the collection? You know, do you like it? Do you hate it? If you do, which variation do you have? Yeah, it's my full review on the Remette Knives Meteor. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys so much. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, evening, day, night, whenever you're watching this. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.